to talk about how celebrities work when they pitch products and back full circle to this whole Seinfeld-Microsoft marriage. We welcome back our panel, Rod Kurtz and Stephanie Allwerder. And also joining us is Barbara Lipper. She's an ad critic for Adweek. And Adam Armbruster. He is a senior partner at ad agency Eckstein, Summers, and Armbruster and Company. He's joining us from Tampa. Barbara, I want to start with you. You think this is, what do you think?
I think in the history of ideas, this is one of the all-time worst ideas. I mean, I cannot believe how bad it is. And in fact, they just switched from an agency that would have been too afraid to suggest Seinfeld because he's so lame and he's so 90s to a really hip agency. So I'm thinking it's got to be some kind of joke. I mean, unless they want you to think of Vista as Boca Vista.
Right. Well, Adam, do you agree with that?
Actually, I have a pretty different opinion of this. This campaign's been largely ignored by Microsoft, the Apple campaign, and now they're not just designing a campaign. This is a juggernaut. Procter & Gamble rolls out a campaign for a new brand. They spent $100 million. This is a $300 million campaign, 3 times the size, with a celebrity who had the #1 show on television and is probably the most iconic figures for people 35 and older in America.
Yeah, but
so this is a juggernaut.
Stephanie, aren't they trying to reach a different audience than the 35 and older?
Well, I think part of the problem is that I think that Seinfeld does still have a lot of brand equity. People really love him and they'll like to see him. But in this specific case, Microsoft already has a reputation of being a little stodgy, and I think that part of the problem here is that it's not going to be pushing the right image that they're looking for.
Right. Rod, other than yourself, who else should they have considered?
How do you know I'm not still being considered? Maybe I'm in the ads with Jerry. Look, here is the big problem that you're hearing a little bit of buzz about this, but if you're a Seinfeld fan, which I'm happy to say I am, pretty much the entire show in his apartment, he had a Mac sitting on his desk.
And he kept
these reruns are on night after night with him next to a Mac. I mean, they could, you know, the one thing I look for here is that potentially Microsoft could have a sense of humor about itself. Because if you think of Vista as essentially a disaster for them, it's filled with a lot of little, really annoying things. That's what Seinfeld's whole comedy routine was about. He targeted the little annoying things in life. They poke a little fun at themselves. I think this could have some...
Well, the other thing is that Apple campaign, you think it would jump the shark because people would get sick of it. But instead, it keeps coming back funnier. People, though, are really rooting for the PC guy. They love him. They think the other guy's kind of a twit. And they really are rooting for Microsoft. And then they make this incredibly boneheaded move with Jerry Seinfeld. It's just so sad.
Well,
how's that for a diversity of opinion?
I think that kind of sums it up. I mean, I do. I think it seems to me that it's the wrong person for this product. But people love him, and I think that people will be happy to see him sort of on the air again.
You know, I got to tell you, too, when I initially heard it, it kind of reminded me of the Gap, for example. Over the last 10 years, they come out with these gigantic ad campaigns, and they have these stars, but they're not stars that resonate with younger folks like Sarah Jessica Parker. But listen, we only have one person here who thinks this is great. Do you have to go again with us and help us out? Why is this campaign, why do you think it's going to work?
The elephant in the room that no one's talking about, Charles, is that 70% of the wealth in America is owned by people over 50. They're going where the money is, and I think it's brilliant. They're taking a major celebrity with a $300 million campaign. You're going to see this commercial in your sleep. And I promise you, within 90 days, you're going to see a change in Apple sales. This is not a little thing. This is a major campaign, probably the most dynamic campaigns in television ever.
So, Rod, are you going to go out and short Apple tomorrow?
Not quite. But look, I mean, I think he's right as well. I mean, you throw some money at the problem. You look at a political campaign, you know, all the talk about Obama earlier was he had so much money, he's going to dominate the airwaves. Doesn't matter what he's saying. You know, there's a reason it works in politics. It could work in this case. Throw money at the problem.
Well, I agree that with $300 million, you can sell anything. But why Seinfeld?
Right. But, you know, Stephanie, let's talk about the real problem for Microsoft. And Rod did hit on it. The product. People are just, they don't like the product. In fact, even right now, more businesses are buying XP, Windows XP, than Vista. So, you know, $300 million sounds like a lot of money, but you can't convince billion-dollar businesses to jeopardize themselves because Seinfeld's in a commercial.
And a lot of this is sort of an image problem. I mean, the product is good, but Apple has such a cool image right now, and it's so hot, and it's very hard to compete with that on the image front, which is obviously why you do an advertising campaign.
And they just keep slamming Vista when it's not even true. They have actually fixed Vista, and unless you're upgrading from XP to Vista, if you just buy Vista, it's fine. So it really needs to be defended, but not with a Seinfeld person.
Do you guys see any sort of parallels with this in the presidential campaign. We have the young, hip guy versus the old, stodgy guy.
I don't know if Jerry Seinfeld, if he's watching, would be happy to hear you say that. But, yeah, I mean, it does sort of underscore a little bit.
Let's go to Tampa. Do you see any correlations there? Correlations?
Charles, let me ask you, if Obama was going to buy a computer today, guess which one you think he would buy?
Without a doubt, he'd buy an Apple.
Because you think that because Obama's got the hip image and so does Apple. But I will tell you that this campaign is going to be a leveling of the field, because you know what? One thing I know about marketing is, maybe only one thing, is people don't buy the product. They buy the promise of the product. And this is going to promise a better experience. It's going to talk about how things work easier with this product. And that's been the problem. It hasn't been that they're hip. Microsoft is not hip. I don't think they're going to go for that. I think you're right. They may make fun of themselves. But the bottom line is, if they can make the computer work easier for middle America, Jane and Joe American, it's going to work.
Do you think Apple's worried about this for real, Stephanie?
They've got to be worried about it. I mean, it's serious money, and you have to take it seriously. But, you know, Apple is going after a slightly different demographic, I believe. So I think that, you know, it's not going to radically change Apple's campaign, but there's just no question that Apple is watching this very closely.
They'll probably start making fun of Jerry Seinfeld.
But it's also like the snake and the elephant. Microsoft has a huge share. Apple has a tiny share by comparison. Microsoft people do all the stuff that makes money. Apple people do little graphic things. You know, why can't they come up with something to fight Apple?
Yes.
And Charles, may I point something out? The agency that they've just hired handles also Coca-Cola, Burger King, Sprite, and Domino's. They've turned Burger King around. They're used to turning around situations, and it's a brilliant decision.
Okay, Rod, I got 10 seconds left. Who's going to be the bigger winner, Microsoft or Jerry Seinfeld?
You know, that's an interesting question, because I wondered why he's doing it. He's rich enough. I mean, I don't picture him as a Windows guy, but maybe he is. I think Microsoft, again, let's get back to the fact he's a comedian. If it's funny, it could work very well.
So he might win no matter what?
Yeah, I don't know how much he has to gain. Microsoft, I think, will definitely win out a little more.
Okay, that's it, guys.